Things are starting to get interesting around MLB. More big name players heading to the injured list, more prospects getting called up, and possibly more underachieving stars ready to turn things around. Let's dig around for some veterans who you can buy low right now. If you love watching baseball and playing fantasy baseball, you probably love playing MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. Well, the best place to get those stubs without paying full price is MMOAH.com. On top of their already discounted price, you get an extra 5% off by using code ENDGAME. You can build your perfect Diamond Dynasty even faster by clicking the link in the description below and using our promo code. Now, it's no secret that before this week, the Houston Astros were struggling big time. Very surprising to a lot of people with that veteran core, and really not that much changed. I just dug into that. If you haven't checked that out, good time to watch that video. Why the Astros struggling so bad? A big part of it has been their bullpen and their high-end free agent, Josh Hader, who has been really rough. So toward the end of that video, I did say, look, pretty soon there's going to be a buy low window here in Hader because people are going to get tired of seeing that huge ERA. Only 2 saves so far after 1 month. What gives? You know, I'm thinking, let's not wait anymore. This is the time to strike. Go out and try to get him because already, as we've seen with 1 outing, he's already dropped that ERA down to 6.39. But all it took was 2 scoreless innings. Technically, he did give up a run. It just wasn't earned. These early, small samples can make players look really bad or really good when in reality it's just a hot or a cold streak. And digging into the numbers, look at Hader, he really has not pitched that bad. In fact, his expected ERA as of right now is 2.72. That is a massive difference between 6.39. And as I had mentioned also, his strikeout rate just as good as ever, about 38%. So really, this is something that can turn around quickly, and the saves will come if the Astros actually win some games, which it looks like they're starting to finally do. This is a team full of talent. Look, besides all the injuries in their starting rotation, which they're now starting to get over with Verlander and Valdez back, and the bullpen, yeah, struggling, but I think it's just a matter of time before they pick it up. This team kind of just needed a kick in the butt, and they got it when longtime veteran Jose Abreu got demoted and rookie Joe Loperfido got sent up. Look, this is sending a message to the team. You got to kick it in gear, and they're responding. Everything seems right with Hader underneath the hood, and so right now, if you got someone who's willing to move on from him, well, go ahead and take advantage. Now there's a pitcher, another young pitcher that I have to admit I've kind of had a change of heart about. I'm not too stubborn to admit when I'm wrong sometimes. Almost 3 weeks ago, after Brandon Pfaadt had another bad outing against the Cardinals, no less, which looks even worse in retrospect when you see how bad that offense has been, I said, look, I'm done being patient here. Maybe we're just, overhyping him because of his prospect status, his postseason run. In the regular season, he just hasn't really pitched that well yet. And now he has. So since that time when I said maybe we should just move on, you don't have to be patient and hold him, he's only given up 6 runs over the next 3 starts combined. He's also got an expected ERA that is much lower than his real ERA, about 1.5 runs, and so we could see some positive regression, which we have already started to see. Not just that, but the analytics say he's actually just pitching really well overall. He's got a 284 xWOBA, which is expected weighted on-base average, a very key indicator to how a pitcher is performing overall. That's top 30 among all starting pitchers. And only a 4% walk rate. I mean, if he can just leave some of those meatballs off the menu and not get those hard hits, you know what? This could continue. He's a guy we know has the talent to ring up Ks, and if he's avoiding the walks, I think altogether we could see some more continued consistency from him. What is noteworthy is if we look at, what has changed, if anything, since that time where he was looking really rough to the last 3 starts. He's messing a little bit with that pitch mix. For the first time really in his very brief career, we're starting to see the sweeper used more than the 4-seam fastball, and that might be a reason. The sweeper is one of those pitches that has become real trendy, and if deployed effectively, yeah, it can work to get hitters out. So he's starting to use that a little bit more, especially his last 2 starts. Let's see if that continues. Let's see if that's the key. So right now, I will say he's probably not so much a buy low because of how he's doing lately. He's actually been much better, but you look at the overall season-long stats, it doesn't show that he's been that good, but he's actually been much better than it appears. Now, if we're talking advanced stats and very obvious buy lows, it's got to be number one here, Brandon Nimmo of the Mets. Would you even believe it if I told you that Brandon Nimmo is in the top 10 percentile in expected batting average, expected slugging, xWOBA, average exit velocity, and walk rate? You might have guessed it on the walks because he's always at a high walk rate, but probably nothing else, especially the batting average, because right now his average sits at a putrid 208. His expected batting average is all the way up to 298. And the slugging too, he's got 3 home runs, only 8 extra base hits on the season so far, but man, he should be doing a lot better. You might be wondering, why didn't he even play on Wednesday? Because, maybe he's hitting so bad, they're finally giving him a day off. Well, it's just a matter of playing against a really tough lefty in Shota Imanaga, who was, again, really tough. But this is a guy who's still hitting leadoff pretty much every day, and there is no reason to think that he will sit against lefties going forward because he really hasn't been sitting so far. He's actually hitting better against lefties than righties this season, so there is no split to worry about. There is no worry that he's going to miss out on playing time going forward. If anything, this is a huge bounce-back candidate. Now, maybe not the highest upside. He's not a guy who has tremendous power, not going to steal you too many bases, but he should actually be a very big boon in batting average, and it will score runs at the top of that order, which, again, you feel like this whole offense should come around and be doing better. I think they will to some extent at least, and Nimmo is bound to do better than he's doing right now. And is it too obvious to mention Nick Castellanos again? I did talk about him a couple weeks ago. Here we go, still. A guy has not quite turned it around, but he's got to. Now he's coming off another 0 for 4 night, dropping his batting average to 186. Yeah, that hurts, especially when he's not making up for it with power. Only 2 home runs on the season. I mean, he's just been ice cold. Everything, even the StatCast numbers show he's just been bad. But there are some signs of hope. Over the last 10 or so games, he's been hitting 262 with those 2 home runs. I mean, at the beginning of the year, just nothing was working for him. And it's interesting, an interview not too long ago, he was talking about chase rate and, telling him he needs to chase less. Obviously he's a slugger, pretty free swinger. He always has been. That strikeout rate is just going to be high because that's how he rolls. But he's able to make good contact and hard contact most of the time. But it almost got into his head. He was so worried about not chasing that he was being too patient, not getting his pitches, chasing too little to some extent. Well, now it's gone the other way. He said, screw it, I'm just going to do what I do and swing. Now he's chasing a little bit too much. I think he's going to find that sweet spot eventually. This is a veteran hitter, a guy who knows what he's doing. So when he finally gets into that hot streak, you're going to want to have him in your lineup. All right, Angels fans, I know you're probably thinking, can anything go right these days? Is there anything to look forward to? Well, there might be a little beacon of hope here. Some players might step up in the absence of guys like Mike Trout and Anthony Rendon and all their good players who aren't there anymore. So let's actually start with a hitter in Luis Rengifo, who I actually think is going to benefit from these injuries. Now, first, the obvious thing is playing time. This is someone who kind of figures to be a utility guy, which is very helpful in fantasy. Can slot in at second, third, short, outfield. He can play everywhere. But unfortunately, that means that when you get pegged as a utility guy, you're not always in that starting lineup. And apparently new manager Ron Washington didn't really love him as a starting player, which is why we didn't see him in the lineup regularly early in the season. Well, he's coming around on that partially out of just sheer need because all those injuries already mentioned. So we're seeing Rengifo play on an everyday basis, but even better, he's been hitting leadoff the last couple of days, and even today was in the cleanup spot. Rengifo has responded, right now hitting .321 and got 9 steals on the season to go with a couple of home runs. Now, he's definitely overachieving right now, and I guarantee he's not going to hit .321 by the time the season's over, but he won't hurt you in average, and man, if he's going to keep running, why shouldn't he? Because really, who is he going to sit and wait to drive him in? I think he's going to continue to run. He'll be this nice sneaky source of steals here. He's got a little bit of power. He can get you maybe in the teens as far as home runs. And if he's hitting leadoff, he's going to score some runs. If he's hitting cleanup or third, he'll drive in some runs. He's actually available on quite a few waiver wires right now, but I know in competitive leagues, which is probably like the ones that you're in, he's probably owned, but probably not too highly sought or valued. So I think this is the time to get a player like this on the cheap and you can maximize his rest of season output. And then let's go with another Angel. This guy's pretty much universally owned, although he's been dropped in a couple leagues after a couple of rough starts. That's their new ace, Reed Detmers. Now, after his first 4 starts, he was looking like an early Cy Young dark horse, had a 1.19 ERA and a 0.97 whip. Now, this was a high-end pitching prospect, a little up and down his first couple of seasons, but maybe he's putting it all together. And then the last couple of starts happened, and those ratios pretty much doubled. So now we have to try to figure out who is going to be the real Reed Detmers. Is it the early season guy? Is it what we're seeing now? Have hitters kind of caught on to his stuff, figured him out? What? So to some extent, I'll excuse what he's done because 2 really tough matchups the last 2 games, going against the red-hot Orioles lineup and the, yes, I have to say, red-hot Minnesota Twins offense. Go figure. Now, one of the keys to Detmer's early success was his fastball. Not that there's anything super remarkable about it, but if you notice one change from last year, he's done what is actually very key to a lot of pitcher success, and that's get some more vertical movement on the fastball. He actually swapped it out for horizontal movement, which is interesting because it used to move a little bit more side to side, and now he's moved it so that he's getting a little bit more up in the zone, but this is good. We want vertical movement on that 4-seamer. And he was pounding the strike zone more, not nibbling as much. It has worked. But in these last couple of starts, you have to notice that his swing and miss rate has gone down, so you gotta wonder if he's being in the zone a little bit too much. He should figure out a nice balance before long, so I think with the talent here and what he's shown so far early in the season, I think he can get back to what he was, also maybe not always facing some of these super hot offenses. His very next scheduled start might be a tough one. It's on the road against Cleveland, which has also been surprisingly good on offense. We'll see how he does there, but even if he isn't great, I say be patient with him. Look, that might even make it more affordable to get him in the trade market if he doesn't have a good outing. So I would say actually let's wait on this one through the weekend and then see if it's time to try to get Detmers at a discount. We've already seen a lot of players that stumbled early starting to pick it up now that we're a month into the season, especially those Houston Astros who all of a sudden can't stop winning. Well, if you didn't check out my deep dive on them, I explore all the reasons why they got to a rough start and who you should trust and who you should continue to worry about going forward in fantasy. You can watch that one right here.